What, in your mind, is the Marvel Cinematic Universe still missing? We're neck-deep into Phase 5 now. After all, we've had dozens of movies and streaming series and one-off specials. And while critics can and do bemoan the surface similarities these disparate properties tend to share, the strength of the MCU remains how much variation it manages to offer up in tone, scope, stakes, and subject matter. Looking for street-level angst, comic sweep, paranoid thrillers, mystic mumbo-jumbo, sitcom satires, gods and monsters, coming-of-age dramas, subatomic shenanigans, Afro-futuristic utopias? Whatever the hell Eternals was supposed to be, the MCU has something for you. But maybe, after all these years, you find that your own very particular Marvel itch remains somehow unscratched, so I say to this, a vanishingly small subset of you, if you've ever found yourself walking out of a Marvel movie and said to yourself, I liked it, it was fine, but I don't know. I can't help thinking it could have used just a lot more vivisection. Then rest assured your tastes have finally been catered to, you sicko freak. The gang's all here. Sort of. But first, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is pitched as a send-off to the ragtag gang of misfits first introduced in James Gunn's 2014 Guardian of the Galaxy, who've since cropped up in several corners of the MCU. As a team, they've always leaned more into mercenary violence and bro-ish banter than anything so hopelessly quaint as heroism, though they do tend to wind up saving the day, despite themselves. They've added some new faces to their roster, one of which is technically an old face. Zoe Saldana here plays an alternate timeline version of her character Gamora, whom we met back in the first film. Long story. There is dim but headstrong Peter Quill, Chris Pratt, dim but strong Drax, Dave Bautista, gruff Nebula, Karen Gillan, empathetic Mantis, Palm Clementif, laconic space ant Groot, voiced by Vin Diesel, and tough but fussy raccoon Rocket, voiced by Bradley Cooper. Also along for the ride, Kraglin, Sean Gunn, a space pirate struggling with performance issues, Cosmo, Maria Bakalova, a telekinetic space dog, and a brand new antagonist, Will Poulter's Adam Warlock, a genetically engineered super being with the mind of a petulant child in the body of an Instagram fitness influencer. They're all up against a powerful being known as the High Evolutionary, played with gratifying over-the-top, scenery-devouring brio by Chukwudi Iwuji. The High Evolutionary's nefarious plan to engineer a perfect species to live in a perfect society of his creation, which, alas, is where all that vivisection comes in. Doing Moreau with less. Look, if you're trying to come up with a villain for audiences to dutifully, even reflexively hiss, eugenicists are a pretty good place to start. I get that. And if said eugenicists should also happen to go about their evil business by conducting unholy cybernetic experimentations on cute fuzzy animals like Rocket in flashbacks and innocent, adorable, wet-eyed toddlers in the present day, sure, fair enough. Bad guys do bad things, after all. It is in their job description. The problem at the core of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 isn't the mere depiction of said animal experimentation, which created not only Rocket but a cater of three fuzzy cyborg pals we get to briefly meet. It's the fact that writer-director James Gunn approaches those scenes without trusting his audience to naturally recoil at the idea of animal cruelty. There is violent imagery, yes, but what makes those scenes profoundly unpleasant to sit through is not their violence itself, but Gunn's mawkish, maudlin, manipulative approach to it. Using every cinematic tool at his disposal, he so feverishly attempts to crank up the horror of these scenes that he only succeeds in exposing their cynical, plot-driven artifice, and by juxtaposing them with moments in which the experiment's animal subjects spout platitudes about the joy of friendship and their dreams of escape. Gunn's unbearable ham-handed execution aims for pathos, but achieves only bathos, its laughably inept evil twin. You can only tug on the audience's heartstrings for so long before they start to snap off in your hands. To watch Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is to watch a filmmaker under the wildly mistaken belief that the best way to get you to absorb what he's saying is by screaming it directly in your ear. There's more to the film than Rocket's trauma narrative. In those flashbacks, Sean Gunn attempts to personify a younger Rocket by pitching Bradley Cooper's dense and dose Brooklyn accent up an octave or two, so we the audience get to experience some trauma ourselves. Game, cassette, and match. The central metaphor of Gunn's Guardians films have been the mixtape. Peter Quill's beloved, long-lost mother made him one filled with classic rock jams that supplied the soundtrack to his life, and to the first Guardians film. Nowadays, Peter's updated his old cassette with a playlist that provides this third film with a more eclectic collection of needle drops: Beastie Boys, The Replacements, Florence and the Machine, and like any mixtape/playlist, Guardians Volume 3 includes some real gems. At one point, the team visits a space station that's entirely organic, and the production designers go to town creating doorways like heart valves and airlocks like open wounds. There's an extended slow-motion fight in a corridor featuring digital camera work that swoops around the characters as they trade punches and kicks and laser blasts in a physics-defying manner. It's visually stunning if viscerally inert, like an extended video game cutscene. But some of the other songs in this cinematic mix don't hit as hard as they could. Poulter's Adam Warlock feels shoehorned into the overstuffed proceedings, and while Clementiff's Mantis gets more to do than she ever has, both the character and actor still feel underused. The Guardians as a team have never adopted the usual superhero admonitions against the taking of lives. Even so, a scene in which one of our heroes casually instructs another one of our heroes to kill them all still can't help but rankle. Barbs and insults get well and truly traded, a gun hallmark, and most of them land. Mostly, though a weirdly somber mood pervades the film. Maybe it's that the scenes of animal abuse linger longer and cast a deeper pall than the filmmaker has accounted for. If Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is a mixtape, it's the only one that your ex sends you after you break up with him, full of syrupy, sentimental tunes meant to reignite any last lingering sparks of feeling you may have once shared. It's Seasons in the Sun, followed by Alone Again, naturally, followed by Everybody Hurts, followed by The Christmas Shoes, and it serves only to remind you how right you were to dump the sappy chump when you did.